China says it will not accept what it calls Donald Trump's unwarranted accusations. The U.S. president told the UN Security Council that China is trying to interfere in November's midterm elections because he's beating them on trade.
They do not want me or us to win because I am the first president ever to challenge China on trade. And we are winning on trade. We are winning at every level. We don't want them to meddle or interfere in our upcoming election.
Winning on trade, the founder of New York steel producer Ferro says tariffs are a necessary evil to deal with threats from China. Joe Casucci is also the CEO of the company, and he joins me now live from the New York Stock Exchange. Thanks a lot for joining us. I'd imagine everything that Donald Trump said today was music to your ears, and you think that what perhaps was a challenging industry before Donald Trump put in the steel and aluminum tariffs has now become a heck of a lot easier.
Yes, hi. It actually has been very interesting as of late. In my world, the contracts have been rolling in. It's been a wonderful time as far as the way everything is coming in our direction. Wars coming across, new jobs. It's been really an interesting blessing, and also like a double-edged sword, if you will, because it's great that these sanctions and tariffs are involved in our world. But there's also that creativity that we have to, as a fabricator, as an installer here in New York, and that deals with the Northeast region. We have to be very careful in how we take care of these materials and buy them.
You know, right now at the table, there's a lot of pressure from allies in Europe and Mexico and Canada to get rid of those, and Japan, to get rid of those steel and aluminum tariffs. What would you say to the president if you had a chance to speak to him? Because at this point, they're trying to keep the two issues separate. But a lot of the people that are coming to the table to do these trade deals are saying, look, steel has to be included.
I agree. What I would say to President Trump is, I understand your methodology. You want to keep everything inside the U.S., keep American jobs. However, we have to have free trade, and we need to get some other competition coming out of the United States, bringing imports in. We do need that eventually. Right now, I understand the tactic, but there is a little bit of a short-term pain with the long-term game aspect that he's doing here, and we don't know when that will end. So it becomes a little bit troublesome on our side to say, okay, these materials keep going up. We have to be creative. Where's the ceiling? And if that ceiling is met, do imports start coming in because we've exceeded that ceiling because of the way the mill's pricing has increased? And it may continue to increase. We don't know as of yet.
And that's an interesting point. And again, it's numbers that you deal with every day. I want to get your opinion on this in terms of how long you think this should go on. I mean, right now, many people think the President Trump's strategy is good, that it's a good negotiating and bargaining strategy. And yet, what would you say a year from now, 2 years from now?
Well, we're experiencing something interesting right now as well. So it's more now, and then we'll see how it is in about a year or so. Interestingly enough, I deal with fabricated materials, which I service to our building owners here in New York and other parts of the country. But we have tariffs that are placed to Canada, Mexico, and other countries. But interestingly enough, we're not fabricated materials coming outside of the country into the U.S. are not tariffed. So there's like an interesting catch. So a year or two from now, is this still going to be the case if these tariffs are still in play? You know, that gives us as sort of a disadvantage at the same time. So outside companies from outside of the U.S. are able to compete with U.S. companies right now in order to bring in fabricated materials. That means cut up, drilled materials into the U.S. with no tariff implication. So it's sort of a quandary for us, like, when is this, what's going on here?
You know, I don't have a lot of time, but the point is, you're saying you're for free trade, but it almost sounds as if you do want more tariffs put into those fabricated materials, steel materials coming into the country.
Well, there are tariffs imposed on the raw material. So now there are no tariffs on raw material that are fabricated coming into this country. So it sort of puts a little bit of a question for us. How do we handle that? I love the tariffs idea. I love keeping everything American, but there are now outside forces coming in, bringing in competitive materials, but on a different scale.
Yeah, an incredibly complicated picture that will continue to be affected, obviously, by the general economy. Thanks so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. Now, moments from now, as we've been saying, President Trump is set to meet British Prime Minister on the sidelines of that United Nations General Assembly meeting. We will bring you live pictures in a moment.